What's architecture, technically and to you personally?
Okay, so how do you want to engage this? Do you want to take it back, or do you want to talk about it? We can talk about it like this. There is, a very elite thing called architecture that people do across the world. It's generally for the rich. It started in the Renaissance. It's very big in Europe and in America, but especially in Europe. And it's kind of like a club, if you want to put it like that. That's the thing that we call architecture that people study at schools. Nowadays, people make money out of it, like developers. They hire someone called an architect to go and build Stain City, the one that you spoke about recently.
I love Stain City.
And it's seen as a profession in that instance. But in its sort of recent history, it's really this elite thing where this great guy like Michelangelo or whoever comes and builds this wonderful thing and is usually, hired by a rich patron to do something that we can marvel at. And it's like a craft. It's like ballet. Think about ballet, and those sort of classical practices.
Playing the violin.
Okay. The bougie stuff. That's what architecture is, which you then understand why it's one of the final frontiers for change and decolonization and transformation, because it's one of the babies. It's one of the held close in terms of, I would say, supremacy, because, that's one of the ones that no one but certain people can do.
The final frontier of decolonization.
One of the.
So the Springboks, shout out to the Springboks, Siya Kolisi and the boys for winning, are still a triggering symbol for many people, specifically the EFF, Nabo Julius. For many people who are pro-black, pan-Africanist, they see the Springbok as this symbol of white Afrikaner nationalism, which they want to protect. And even if they bring in black players or colored players, it must be the ones who have assimilated largely, braaiing, having a nice clippies and cola, can speak Afrikaans, etc. You're arguing that architecture, let's say arguably on the African continent, is one of those spaces where any white supremacist notions are like, you can play around with everything else, but this is one of the spaces, leave it alone. This is what building design and stuff should look like.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say people are doing that consciously, and people are doing that in some sort of systematic way, but you can see the way in which people behave when it comes to architecture. Every time, I mean, you can ask my wife, who's here, my beautiful wife.
Shout out to your wife.
Every single time I say to people, particularly people of a certain demographic, that I'm an architect, the reaction is always the same. Oh, you're an architect. And it's like a big deal, and they really make it a big deal, because somehow architecture is just one of those things that is so difficult and is so elite.
Yeah.
And, it's almost impossible to imagine that this young guy, let alone is an architect, but has a doctorate in architecture.
Yeah. It's not weird for you when you walk in spaces. Do you not feel, how am I trying to explain this? So people look at you a certain way. Let's say, for example, you're going around saying you're a rocket scientist. Does it make you feel some type of way? Or do you feel like, this is just what I chose? Or do you like, actually, I'm fully conscious of how elite this is, the space, and how much of a unicorn I am?
Yeah, look, Penyo, man, architecture is one of those things, like at WITS, it's a bloodbath. It's like a bloodbath, like, and not just WITS, all architecture schools. If you don't come from a certain kind of privilege, you were saying to me now in the kitchen that it's privilege. I'm coming from privilege, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Penny,
it was an example.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
An example.
This guy, and it's true actually, because when I was in high school, I did art, and my art teacher was a professor, and had it not been for me having a professor from a university,
that's unique,
come and be an art teacher at my school, I don't think I would have managed to do the things that I did at WITS, because for many of the, a lot of the time I was there, I was one of the top students. I got 2 distinctions in my master's. And that's
Take it easy on us, bro.
No. I'm just
No. Please.
I'm just saying.
Please own it. That's too dope.
Yeah, and that's because of that background, which actually says to you that for us to take ownership of that space, there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Because, which is one of the points that I wanted to talk to you about. Architecture has a lot to do with a certain kind of way of thinking. It's about precision and accuracy, like a doctor.
Yeah.
But then it's about creativity, the kind of creativity you expect from a Picasso or from like a genius piano player. They say that architecture is the highest art of all the arts.
Of course, it's architects.
No, it's not architects who say that. It's not architects who say that.
Who says architecture is the highest form of art?
Just if you go to these sort of circles in Europe, where you find like, these people who've got like long money, generational.
Monaco, south of France, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you engage them and you talk to them about the way in which people perceive architecture in those spaces.
Yeah.
The most bougie, the most privileged. Architecture is really revered as the highest form of art. If you're an architecture student, you can do graphics, you can paint, you can make furniture, you can make clothes, you can make anything. If you've studied architecture.
Is that a real thing? Is that how you guys are trained?
100%. Think about Virgil Abloh.
Okay.
Virgil Abloh studied architecture.
I didn't know this.
He was an architect, and then
as a fashion designer.
Chief. Then he went on to be the creative director of Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
That's what architecture is.
Rest in peace to Virgil, man.
Yeah.
Small deviation. The idea of getting what we'd call hyper-educated, very intelligent, hyper-skilled people to educate children at the youngest levels, and your personal opinion on that. Having a professor teach art, having a senior advocate go and teach children whatever at high school level, whether it's full-time or on a part-time basis, is this something that you think could benefit society? Because you clearly believe that having a prof teaching you art was a game changer for you.
I had a prof teaching me art, and another one, don't know if she was a prof teaching me drama.
Yeah.
We had drama every Friday at school, right? What does drama do? Drama teaches you confidence like you cannot believe.
100%.
Right? We were always, every single Friday, standing in front of a group of people, learning how to be confident. And this thing I took, subsequently to the rest of the things that I was doing in my life, meaning that it is true that what you put in, especially at a young age, benefits you. I mean, it's sad for me to say this, but when I look at the demographic of students that I've had, because I teach at WITS, right? And we get like an intake of we get an application of about 5,000 students.
For architecture?
Yeah, right? Between 5,000 to 2,000. Out of those, about 70% of them are black. But when we whittled it down to the final number, which is about 65 that go
65?
in.
65?
Yeah.
From 2 to 5,000?
Yeah, that go in.
Sure.
The numbers have changed over the years. The demographics have changed over the years. But, generally, proportionately, you still find there are more white students. If you compare in terms of the percentage of demographics of black and white in South Africa, there are proportionately still more white students coming in than black students. Yeah. And it's got a lot to do with background.
Yeah. You do support the idea of getting highly educated, highly qualified people teaching kids?
I don't know if there's any other way if you're going to be competitive at the level that one needs to be, at least for something like architecture. I mean, even if you like did really well in matric, right? You still have to compete with people who've got like 90s for all their subjects. Our entrance exam is 50% maths, but you have to compete with people who are getting 90%.
100%.
And these people speak well. The first project that we give them, they'll get like an 80% for that project. You're still trying to figure out how to, submit assignments on our web platform. You don't even know how to do that.
Don't know how to use a computer.
Yeah, well, you can use a computer to a certain extent, but you can't navigate the complexity of using the online platform.
I'm just thinking for kids from the villages and the like.
Exactly, and we have a lot of that happening. And then now on top of that, you have to study something like architecture, which is all about, this deep thing that you have to connect with on the inside, which is deep levels of creativity. And you have to come up with this new thing that no one has ever done. And then you have to code it somehow in a rationalistic way to make it actually functional.